Hey everybody, it's Fatman from the Holler. I'm going to show you guys something new. And this is a little bit of cooking with me. I'm going to show you guys how I make some different kinds of rubs. It's a slew of different things. This is some miscellaneous pork chop seasoning I got. So what I'm going to be cooking is pork chops here in this video. So let me pull the old seasoning. There's a couple different bags of seasoning in it. Usually when I make seasoning, I recycle it. I just rebag it. And then I make when I'm dipping the pork in separate, I make it smaller. So what I do is this right here. Add my seasoning. As you can see with the package, I'm going to unfold this and it has an extra baggie of storing this. But see, I don't use that kind of crap for nothing. So that's that. And then, as you can see, I add a little bit more in. Because me, when I make pork, if I'm going to make it, it's going to be crispy. And then I have another miscellaneous seasoning, which ain't going to hurt nothing. Even though it's a couple of different kinds, it's not going to take away from what I'm doing in the least bit, shape, form, or way. And I got some music playing that's probably gonna get me fucking trademarked. If it does, so be it. It's just background music, because I always play music while I am cooking. So if I get trademarked for it, well, then I'll probably just upload the video and take the video back down and then just do a little bit differently, or might not do it at all. If YouTube wants to be a dick and they think that I'm stealing their stuff because it's not for monetary gain. It's just showing some ideas of how to create your own little rub and how I do it. Stuff like lemon pepper, and how much lemon pepper I add is a moderate amount. Then from there, I bust out the old paprika. And I put quite a good, not too much paprika, but a pretty good amount of it. Because I like food that is not bland. Just my preference, maybe not for everybody. And then I have onion powder. And I'll add a bit of onion powder. That's pretty good. And then from there, I'll add some garlic salt. So I add the garlic salt, got that out of the way. And then the next thing will be, is let me grab a utensil for stirring it up. And I'm going to add some Cajun seasoning. So I want to have a zest. I don't want something bland. The sound you're hearing is actually, you know how seasoning, if you don't use it all the time, it kind of sticks up a little bit. But that should be sufficient right there. So the next move on this becomes I take this right here and I just start stirring it all up. And I make sure it's good and mixed. And I can add a little bit. And not a whole. I am not going to add too much, just a little bit of pinch. Just a little bit of salt. And that amount of salt's quite a bit. But for reusing this in a future date, it'll go a long ways. And then I'm a pepper fanatic all the time. So then I'll add some pepper to it, but not too much to override the other spices that I put in this. And what I'm basically doing is making my own rub. Because I don't like using stuff that's sold in stores. And a lot of that stuff's artificial. And even some of this, what I'm using is artificial. But I've added panko crumbs and different stuff. And the panko breadcrumbs, you can use them if you don't want to use pork seasoning. But I use a variety of different things, because when you use a variety of different things, some people may not like it. They want to be over analytical and they don't like this or that. But what I'll do is I continue mixing it. And I mean, you can add just about anything you want, because when you're cooking, it's just like art. You're really not going to mess up unless it tastes just so utterly disgusting that you're initially not going to be able to eat it. And then, you know, that's probably not a great thing, because you might be wasting food doing that. And if you got a family, that's not something you want to do. So, this is what I do. I get it adequately stirred the way that I want it. And then from that moment, the next ingredient comes. You need a container like this. And what you'll do is, what you're going to create is the wash. When I explain that, some people who cook will understand it. You just take a basic egg, you crack your egg, and you break your egg, and you add your egg. And the same little spatula that you use for stirring the ingredients for making the rub for the pork, you can actually use to stir the egg. Some people use a fork. Everybody does everything a little bit different. I do things just easier for me, and it requires a lot less of washing dishes. And I'm adding quite a bit of egg, but that's okay. It's more eggs than needed. It's actually 6. These eggs I've had for a little while, so I don't want them to go bad, so I'm going to use them. And then when this is done, I might just cook the eggs and use the eggs for a breakfast type thing. And then once you have all your egg in, then you can just work your egg, and everybody knows how to do that. Anybody who cooks, and if they don't, well, they're going to learn in this moment. And then I continually stir it, because you want to break the consistency down of the yelling of the eggs, so everything is more broken down, and it helps in that category of doing that. So this is what I'll do. I'll just get it good and all stirred. Make sure it's completely all together, and the eggs is all consistently stirred to a good consistency. So that's out of the way. That's one piece of it. The next thing that you'll most likely want to do is have another container if you're doing this. So you'll have your egg. Then, while I'm doing this, I'm going to use some Pam, since I don't have no cooking oil. And I'm going to add it to the pan that I'm cooking with. And I'm going to spray quite a bit, because I don't have no canola oil. I'm going to compensate. And then, as we do this, I'm going to continually rinse a lot of stuff off in this process. So you take this container, you move your egg out of the way, you have this container. Then you'll have another container, and then what you do is you dump the ingredients in it. And you can do this a couple times just to make sure the consistency is stirred to your achieved desired amount. So what I'll do is I'll do this right here. So that's out of the way. And then I'll move that over. Then I have the container of pork, and I got to move some stuff out of the way, because I'm actually going to cook some biscuits along with it. So what I do is, when I do this, I do it more in a restaurant way, and I'll tear the pork open, and I'm always quite a germaphobe in certain aspects, and I do worry about cross-contamination and things of that sort. So what I'll do is I will turn the hot water on, and as you can see, the hot water is, I get the water warmed up to where it's good and warm. And usually I just put my hand there, because I live in a mobile home, and bear with me, it takes a moment for the water to usually heat up. Okay, the water's something that I would consider efficiently warm. And what I do is I'll always rinse off all the meat good. And then once I do that, that's just one piece of meat. And what I'm going to do is take the container you've seen before with the rub in it. And what I'll do is I'll work it with my hands. Let me turn that water off. And what I'll do is I'll work it with my hands to work the rub into the meat. And a lot of people you see in videos, they just don't do it the way I would do it. And I mean, if you want to be a little bit, the consistency to be a little different, you could add 1 to 2 cups of flour. But I like to make more of what some folks out in the world who actually go to restaurants and all that jazz, they call it Southern cooking. I'm doing this with one hand, but I'm not actually holding the phone, so I actually got in a little tripod. And bear with me because I do have some tripods and better equipment coming, because I've used some ads and different things that I had, different capabilities of doing this. So you work that rub in, and this pertains to using flour, but I'll still dip it in the egg to create a wash. And some people probably wouldn't do this, but you do that, and you let a lot of that rub, you let a lot of that come off, and then when that's done, then you can get it back down in there, and you'll get you a real good coating on here. And any place where it's wet, you can work it in, and then as you work it in, you just keep turning it and working it in, spreading it out, so you have a good consistency coating of what you're doing. And then the next thing that I will do is I will take this and I'll place it in the frying pan, and I'll turn it on high. And these pork chops are a little big, which I should have actually cut them down a hair bit. And as I do this process, one thing I always do is I wash my hands, because I could wear gloves, but I don't. I just like to continually wash my hands as I touch everything, so I don't touch anything twice and make anything nasty or cross-contamination, because that's a very crucial thing. Since the water's already warmed up, I'll rinse the pork off again. So I really like to do that in good hot water. You can see the steam coming off. You do that, and then you do the same process again with each piece of it. So this is how I do it. And you work it all in, because meat has like grains, like kind of like trees. And some, it's like you're marbling and such. If you know anything of connoisseur of meat, then you come back with your egg once more, and you dip it in and work it around to where you can create something good for it to bond to, because water will get it so far, but then you strain it real good and get a lot of egg off of it, and then you have your container, you can go right back into it, and then you can work it. It's seeing right, you're seeing right here, you work it, and you just keep working it, and what you're doing is creating it to make a texture on it. And I'm almost out of ingredients, so I'll take my hand that's actually free and clean, and I'll add some more rub, because all this rub that I make, actually I don't think I made enough for all this pork, but it's going to work out pretty well. And I have the skillet on, and I turn it on high to get it going, because when I cook any kind of poultry or meat of sorts, what I'll initially do is I always turn it on high. And it's like right here where you see, you can mash it in there with your hand. And a lot of people don't like to get in there, get their hands this dirty, or be involved in it to that level. But if you want to make good food and you want a good lather and batter, you really have to get in there. So this is what I do. And then we're going to go from right here over to the oven. I'm going to move the phone from the tripod. As you can see, my little station working. And then what we got going on here it is. And everything is fairly clean. I haven't had water for 2 weeks, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of scrubbing on a lot of this stuff. But as you can see, it's coming along. And this is what I do. And I'll cook it on high. And you can see it start to simmering. And then once you get it going on high, then you just move it over. And what you do is you want to cook it for a while to where it starts browning up. And as it starts to brown up, you can actually decrease your heat down to a little bit above medium. Because you know, pork needs to be cooked, and most foods need to be cooked. I believe when I was working in restaurants and delis and such of that nature, you want to get your food over about 175. And if you're like cooking chicken tenders, stuff like that nature, when I worked in the restaurant, the officially cooked frozen chicken is like chicken tenders. It's like 7 minutes. Popcorn chicken, stuff of that nature, is around 4 to 5 minutes. We had timers for all that, but at home, you have to think about what you're doing as you're cooking. And as it starts to cook, what you're doing is you're getting the breading hard where it sticks to the meat. And then so it's not stiffer on the board. Then you can adjust your heat to mid-range or lower and slow cook it if you want to. Because cooking does not have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be over-analytical. It doesn't have to be all these fancy little shows on YouTube and all over the world showing how to cook, and these books and all that crap that you see. It doesn't have to be that way. Those people do it as more nostalgialistic of actually, oh, you got to have this fancy kitchen and all this crap. You don't have to have all that fancy stuff. You just have to have ambition. And art, freehand art, or doing anything you do in life, you'll make mistakes. It's trial and error. You only learn as you go. Nobody's perfect and everybody's made mistakes. It doesn't matter if it's the top elite chefs of the United States or the world. Everybody makes mistakes. And when you start to look at the braiding, if it seems to be burnt, you lower your temperature. And as it slow cooks, you'll cook it on both sides. And I get the braiding to where it sets up, and then I may flip it over one more time. It's just going. You don't want to flip it too many times because you'll start to lose your braiding. As you can see, this piece is actually a little bigger than desired. I should have used my kitchen scissors to actually cut it down, but it's going to work out. And then I'll show you a finished product in the next part of the video. And this becomes what the finishing product of cooking a pork chop braided my way looks like. And you can see the consistency of the meat. It's all cooked through. None of it's pink. It is a little bit scorched to it, but I also like to use a little bit of intense heat in the beginning and towards the end to make sure it's uniformed, equally cooked. And that said, this is what I do, and this is how I do it. And by doing it this way, it protects anybody from getting sick or having something undercooked or something gross, that nature, so I'll overcook it. But between the intense heat in the beginning and the end, then I do a consistent, about a medium level heat on most kitchen stoves. I think most folks will understand that. And I do it in that general aspect. So you start with your egg and your breading, and I rinse the meat off, of course, so you can see by the sink, get it good and hot. And when you get that out of the way, and then you just do, after it's rinsed off, I'll dip it in the breading, and then from there, I'll work the breading into it. And you can do the same thing with flour, and you can put in your egg for your wash, where it makes a good crust, where it makes it clean to what's existing, so it sets up. Now, I'm no professional cook, but I have actually did some chef work, and I've worked in many restaurants and different delis and stuff of that nature, so I'm pretty adequate at my skills because I haven't had very many complaints. It's just sometimes people want the stuff more spicy, and I try to make the food semi-mild because I know not everybody likes very spicy stuff like I do, because I can handle Thai hot food and like different spices from Russia and different parts of the world that are very hot, like certain breads that I've made where you can just take one bite up and your tongue's on fire. Yeah, I don't try to make it like that no more, but I made like a small loaf of bread just as a test for some folks, and they're like, wow, this is hot. They didn't want much to do with it, but it lasts a while. But anytime I get sick, I go with spices. So this is the end product, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Just a different way of doing things. And then once you have your pork chop cooked and breaded and everything, and if you have a family and you want to do it fast, get you some instant mashed potatoes, pour some warm water in it, and then add just a brief, about that much butter to it or less. And then you heat the butter first to break the butter down, and then you add instant mashed potatoes, and you can add milk to it to give it a little bit better taste than water, and you stir it up very thoroughly. And then you can put it in a microwave for roughly about 2 to 4 minutes, just depending on your microwave, etc. And then when that's done, you'll have your mashed potatoes. You can also take a gravy packet, add some milk, stir it up thoroughly, put it in the microwave. And you got pork chop. You can add gravy to pork chop, or whichever kind of gravy, brown or white. You have mashed potatoes and gravy, and then a simple canned food. You can take a glass container or whatever you want to use. You can either cook it on the oven top or the microwave and add a little bit of butter. And you stir it up in whatever flavors you like. And then you got your vegetables, your mashed potatoes, and your pork chop. And if you like Texas toast or what have you, you just throw it in the microwave. And then you can add butter to that or eat it without it. It just varies upon the person. So I try to give different ideas to be adequately touching the whole field. I don't want to just work in one part of it. I want to be able to make it so everybody can enjoy it. And that's the end of the video. And if you like it, hit like and subscribe. Hopefully you find some good stuff in the video.